And so if you miss anything, we'll have this recording posted up on our website, so it can be viewed at a later time as well. So all of this information will be documented. Next, quickly go through the webinar agenda. So real quick, I'm going to get started and just kind of do a little introduction and background on the Capital District Clean Communities Coalition, in case any of you on the line aren't familiar with our organization, what we do. And then I'm going to hand it over to the EPA folks to go into detail on the Clean School Bus Grant Program. Our presenters this afternoon from EPA will be Serena Morales and Lily Black, both from EPA Region 2. And then from there, we can get into the question and answers. So getting started, again, just a background on kind of what Clean Cities is and what we do as an organization here at Capital District Clean Communities Coalition. So Clean Cities is a national network of individual coalitions that receives funding or sponsorship from the US Department of Energy. So we exist to really serve as forums for local stakeholders to connect and collaborate about fuel saving technologies, alternative fuels, and technologies. So what we're really based to be is kind of grassroots coalitions across the country that work individually with local fleets, local stakeholders to help them advance towards adopting alternative fueled vehicles and other kind of fuel saving technologies and things like that, really helping our local fleets work towards transportation efficiency and emissions reductions. Our portfolio, so what that means, what are the types of vehicles that we work with? What are the types of fleets that we work with? So we work with fleets that have really any and all types of vehicles, light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty vehicles. If there's fleets out there in the region that are, operating Class 8 trucks and hauling freight and goods on a regular basis, we have stakeholders who operate those types of those vehicles, those types of operations, all the way down to, kind of just small businesses that might have one or two light duty sedans that they're using to go back and forth for meetings. Really any and all vehicles, on-road and even off-road vehicles. If there's a fleet or an organization out there operating any vehicle that, could be fueled by an alternative fuel, they are likely already a stakeholder or are more than welcome to become a stakeholder. And a little bit kind of touched on it there, but any and all alternative fuels are kind of in our jurisdiction as a Clean Cities Coalition. We aren't really here to push a certain type of fuel or technology. It's really more based on, we want to make, help a fleet make the best decision for what alternative fuel is best for their particular situation. So whether that is an EV, a CNG vehicle, a propane vehicle, or even biofuels or hydrogen, our role is really to kind of, start that discussion, identify what the fleet's needs are. Maybe, if they're interested in a specific fuel, we're certainly, willing to help them research it and put them in contact with the people who can help them make that transition. In addition to the fuels itself, we also support and work with, fuel saving measures like idle reduction programs, as well as just general fuel economy improvements of traditional vehicles. And then as well, more recently, we've also been getting to, supporting kind of different mode choices. And a lot of this stuff maybe comes kind of more on the light duty side, but, e-bikes, scooters, things like that are kind of, also can offset kind of the traditional use of gasoline and diesel vehicles. That's also things that we can help, kind of fleets look into and adopt. As I mentioned, the Clean Cities program is a national program, so we are just one of many coalitions. There's over 75 active coalitions across the United States right now. And really what that helps us do is we have a really great connection with all of these coalitions, and know the directors of these coalitions pretty closely. And what that means is likely we, if there's a fleet in our area that has a certain question or is looking into, adopting a certain vehicle or a certain technology, we can likely, maybe put you in contact with a fleet who's done it before somewhere else, or, have navigated the same types of issues and questions that you're dealing with now. So, we'll always like to kind of talk about, the great web of connections and, the information that helps us bring back to the capital region. Stakeholders, who are our stakeholders? So, us, as well as kind of on the national scale, Clean Cities stakeholders are, really any and all fleet operators, private fleets, federal, state, municipal governments, school districts, airport agencies, taxi and rideshare service vehicles. So again, really going back to that, any and all fleets are, again, likely to already be a stakeholder or are kind of welcome into our stakeholder base. And then also along with that, the vehicle and kind of fueling infrastructure manufacturers as well. We like to keep close connections to the manufacturers of these vehicles and the infrastructure in this technology, because really a lot of what we can do is be that liaison between the fleet and kind of the private sector industries that are developing these vehicles as technology. And we want to be the ones that can help you make those connections and really get the best information out there about the technology. Also kind of on the stakeholders things, as far as our coalition goes, we don't have any dues structures or kind of pay-to-play membership structure. We consider all of our stakeholders, any and all fleets and really interested parties. So, by attending one of our webinars, we've taken that as an interest in alternative fuels and efficiency technology. So really just kind of requesting to be on our mailing list is becoming one of our stakeholders. Who we are specifically. So, right, I mentioned we're part of the National Clean Cities organization. But locally, our coalition is hosted by the Capital Region Transportation Council. You may be more familiar with the Capital District Transportation Committee. That was our former name. We just changed names back in June, but we are the Metropolitan Planning Organization for New York's Capital Region. So what that means is, in addition to this Clean Communities Coalition that we operate, myself and Chaim, who's also on the webinar today, we're also transportation planners. And we work primarily with programming and planning federal transportation improvements in the region. So any road, bridge, sidewalk, bike lane infrastructure project that's receiving federal money kind of gets channeled through our coalition and our committee of local engineers, planners, and government officials. So always like to point that out in case there's folks on the line, right? Any other questions on, federal funding opportunities and things like that, we're also very happy to help answer those questions as well. Our operating area includes we'll call it the 12 county greater capital region. A lot of the work that we do, however, is in Albany, Schenectady, Rensselaer, and Saratoga counties. That's just kind of through the years. We're based in Colony on Wolf Road. So that kind of 4-county core region is where we do a lot of our work. But any and all fleets in that greater 12-county region are welcome to reach out to us. We're always looking to kind of expand a little bit into those areas as well. And then also finally, coalition stakeholders last year contributed to over 34,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions reductions by using alternative fuels. So we collect this information from our stakeholders each year, and really kind of like to throw that out there and plug that our work and the fleets that we work with are making transitions to alternative fuels, which actually does move the needle on emissions reductions. So, that's a number that we track over the years, and obviously we want to see those emissions offset increase as time goes on. And what we do, kind of touched on it a little bit in a number of these previous slides, but really what we're here to do as a coalition is help fleets adopt alternative fuels, and connecting those fleets and consumers with the industry experts. I always like to say, I don't necessarily consider myself an expert, but we know who the experts are. So whether that's, again, the manufacturer of a certain vehicle, or the folks that are actually providing the funding opportunities like we have here on the call today, we want to be the liaison and the conduit for our stakeholders, and really kind of that one-stop shop where people can come to us, ask the question, and hopefully that we have the answers, or we can point you to the people that do have the answers. With that, we do a lot of training and technical assistance. So training like our webinar that we're on here today, technical assistance, we can work directly with fleets to evaluate the vehicles they have, and maybe dig deeper into what's out there for options, or what are the kind of estimated fuel savings that you could see by adopting an alternative fuel vehicle. So we do a lot of different things, but really any and all things alternative fuels. If there's questions out there, we want to help, and we encourage folks to reach out to us and see if we can be of any assistance. And then finally, before we kind of move into the main part of our presentation, I just wanted to bring things a little bit into perspective. Where are we standing right now with electric vehicles in New York State? So I've just got a couple facts here on what the trajectory looks like, or at least what that looks like in the eyes of the state and some of the policy that's been published so far. So just traditional or standard light duty vehicles, the state policy right now is that it's projected or kind of a target, I guess is a better word for it, 3 million zero emission light duty vehicles on the road by 2030. And 10 million zero emission light duty vehicles on the road by 2050. And a little bit of context for that, right now, the current light duty fleet in the state is about 9 million vehicles. So that 2050 number is basically a target to have 100% zero emission vehicles on the road. And again, that's for light duty. On the school bus side of things specifically, because that's what we're here to talk about today, there is a commitment from the state for all new school buses to be purchased to be zero emission by 2027. So what that means is after 2027, there really won't be an option to purchase something that isn't zero emissions. And then 2035, all buses in operation are targeted to be electric by 2035. So again, those are kind of the targets that we're looking at today. And then of course, from here, we're going to get into kind of one of the funding opportunities that you all as school districts can use to start moving the needle and starting to hit those targets. So from here, I'm going to pass it over to Serena to get started on their EPA Clean School Bus Program presentation.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks. And just so you know, I can't turn on my video for some reason, just FYI.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I think I can change that for you.
Okay, no problem.
How about now?
Nope, but let me get started.
Yeah, just get started then. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Serena Morales, and I work for the EPA Region 2 office, which covers New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. I work as part of the Clean School Bus team here in Region 2. Maybe my colleagues can quickly introduce themselves before I jump into it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily Black, and I also work with Serena on the Clean School Bus program. I work a little bit with transportation conformity, environmental justice, environmental education, things like that, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you about our Clean School Bus program. And I think I saw our other colleague, Darian. So Darian, if you want to introduce yourself too.
Hi everyone, I am Darian Darkananda. I am also part of the Clean School Bus team at Region 2.
Oh, looks like I could get my camera on now. Okay, great. So today I just want to give you a brief overview of the 2023 Clean School Bus Grant Program. I want to cover the basics of the program and also cover the basic differences between the grant and the rebate so that you could determine which program may be best for you. Next slide. So school buses travel over 4 billion miles each year, providing the safest form of transportation to and from school for more than 26 million children every day. Diesel exhaust from these buses can contribute to air quality problems and have a negative impact on human health, especially for children who have a faster rate of breathing than adults and whose lungs are not yet fully developed. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or bill, provides $5 billion over 5 years to clean a substantial portion of the nation's fleet of nearly 500,000 buses. These new cleaner school bus replacements will produce either zero or low tailpipe emissions compared to their older diesel predecessors. School bus upgrades funded under this program will result in cleaner air on the bus, in bus loading areas, and in the communities in which they operate. Next slide. In addition to the Clean School Bus Grant Program announced this past spring, EPA anticipates another round of the rebates this fall. There are key differences between the grant and the rebate program. Similar to our last rebate round, this application will be brief and simple. If you are a qualified applicant, your application will enter a pool of applications and be chosen as part of a random lottery. Priority and high districts will have more weight in their application, just like the first round, to target communities with environmental justice concerns. The project period will be shorter and more flexible in funding, but keep in mind that the turnaround will be faster than the grant. The grant, on the other hand, will be longer and more detailed, and you will want to take your time on the application because it will be scored competitively against other applicants. For example, applicants who demonstrate strong environmental results will receive a higher score against another applicant which doesn't demonstrate strong environmental results, for example. The project period will be longer, but this may be beneficial to some school districts as there is more time to plan and implement the project. You will also get more one-on-one guidance with the grant, since a project officer will be working with you throughout the entire grant period. Next slide. Applicants in the school district subprogram must be a state or local governmental entity, a school district, a public charter school, an Indian tribe, or a tribal organization. Under the school district subprogram, applicants must request a minimum of 15 school buses and can request up to 50 school buses. Eligible applicants in the third-party subprogram are nonprofit school transportation organizations and eligible contractors. Applicants in the third-party subprogram must request a minimum of 25 buses and may request up to 100 school buses. And you should refer to the Notice of Funding Opportunity for more information on eligibility. Next slide. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law allows EPA to prioritize certain communities that will benefit from the Clean School Bus program. For this funding opportunity, prioritized communities include high-need school districts, low-income areas, rural school districts, Bureau of Indian Affairs funded school districts, and school districts that receive basic support payments for children who reside on Indian land. Next slide. EPA anticipates awarding approximately $400 million in the Clean School Bus funding under this NOFO, subject to availability of funds, the quantity and the quality of applications received, and other considerations, of course. The funding amounts will vary based on the type of bus chosen by the applicants. For example, Class 7 zero-emission vehicles can receive up to $395,000. The total amounts listed include bus and infrastructure in this round of funding. But note that applicants will have the flexibility to determine how much of the total amount will go towards buses and how much will go towards infrastructure. This is in contrast to the rebates, as a certain amount of funds were allotted for bus purchases and infrastructure purchases in the last round of the rebates. Next slide. School buses must be a diesel-powered 2010 or older model. School buses will be scrapped if selected for funding. If a fleet no longer has an eligible 2010 or older diesel bus and is requesting zero-emission school bus replacements, the fleet now has some options. My kitty is nosy. You can now scrap a 2010 or older non-diesel bus, or scrap, sell, or donate a 2011 or newer bus. And you should check out the NOFO for more info about eligibility. Next slide. Please note that EPA funding for infrastructure is limited to the fleet side of the meter. So we cannot cover anything on the utility side of the meter, but note that state and local funding sources may have opportunities to cover any differences in cost. Also note that all level 2 charging infrastructure purchased under this program must be Energy Star certified chargers. Okay, next slide. And I think Lily will take it from here.
Yeah, okay, hi everyone. I'll now be talking about the application evaluation process. Next slide, please. So step 1 is just going over the threshold criteria review. And then this is just making sure that you fulfill all of the requirements set by the notice of funding opportunity, which are listed in the NOFO. The application also has to be submitted by the deadline, which is 11:59 p.m. on August 22nd, which is a little bit more than a month away. All applicants in the school district sub-program must request a minimum of 15 up to 50 buses. Applicants in the third-party sub-program, a minimum of 25 school buses and a maximum of 100. And then also just want to note again that with the third-party sub-program, applicants must list at least 4 school district beneficiaries in a single application to be eligible. And this is just to make sure that the buses are being distributed in a wide geographic range. And then applicants are only allowed to submit 1 application per region. And so there's been some questions about, let's say there is a school bus sale X in New York, but also Vermont. And they're wondering if they can submit applications in both states. And because New York and Vermont are in 2 different regions, school bus X could submit applications for both region 1 and region 2. And then again, just the applicants must meet all the requirements to be considered eligible. And then you need to meet all of this threshold criteria to move on to step 2. Next slide, please. And so now step 2 is the evaluation criteria. And this is how you fill out your grant application. You define your project summary and your approach, any environmental results, what you expect the outputs, outcomes, and performance measures, what they might be. Are you an environmental justice or disadvantaged community? Like how we looked at earlier, are you prioritized? Where is your school located? Or if you're in the third contract sub-program, are all 4 of your schools in non-attainment or maintenance areas, or all 4 environmental justice communities? And all of these help to improve your application and increase the likelihood of being selected, because if you're able to show all of these evaluation criteria, then you will show that you have a very thorough application and that you have submitted one of the more successful grant applications. And then we also like to state that applicants should explicitly address this criteria as part of their application process, because not only does it help with the project narrative, but then it also kind of helps with your claim for why you are more deserving of this money. And so really with this, because it's a grant and it's competitive, try to put in as much information as possible to then show that you matched all evaluation criteria. Next slide, please. Okay, and so we also would like to state that the leveraging of additional external funds is really crucial to your application as well. And then as we just went over some of the things that you can add to your grant application, the leveraging of funds is one of those as well. And we want to encourage federal funding to support the replacement of as many buses as possible. There might be more points awarded to applicants that are able to leverage or plan to leverage additional external funds in order to fully support the adoption of electric school buses. And some of these external funds could be public-private partnerships, grants from other entities, the issuance of school bonds. And then it's really crucial and important to try to get these leveraged additional external funds because they're also not restricted to the same set of eligible costs as clean school bus funding. So for example, this just means that these funds can be spent on costs such as the utility side of charging infrastructure and installation, whereas clean school bus funding can only fund up to the meter. And so these leverage funds just give you more flexibility on how you're able to adopt your electric school buses. And then we do also want to state that the funding amounts that we stated today and that were available for the rebate program are subject to change in the future. And we are encouraging applicants to apply to either the rebate or the grant based on what they think might be best for them. And then also to identify and use leveraged external funding so that they can cover as much of the cost as possible. And then in addition to leveraged funds, we also we'll give points to those applications that show workforce development. So if you're able to show that you will be able to promote high quality jobs, strong labor practices among school districts and OEMs, you can receive extra points. And so again, because this is a competitive grant program, these will be graded on the extent to which their application demonstrates a plan to prepare their workforce for these new buses and infrastructure. You know, for example, some of the jobs that could be created is just having someone install the chargers, having them connect to the utility to then monitor the grant. You know, because it is a federal grant, there will be check-ins throughout the program. And so you might need someone to be hired to just manage the grant program. But then again, you can also hire new bus drivers or train current bus drivers to learn how to drive and operate electric school buses because there are a few different nuances. And then just a little note that separately, EPA is also soliciting information from the bus manufacturers about their workforce practices. And then this will be posted, if not already, on the Clean School Bus website. And then just a little plug for the Clean School Bus website. Anything that we say today is found online there at epa.gov/clean school bus. Here you can find anything from worksheets that help you with this workforce development, things that can help you with your infrastructure planning and talking to your utilities. And then also looking at previous webinars hosted by EPA that go over the grant program or the application process. Next slide, please. And now step 3 is selection and notification. The school district and third-party applications will be reviewed by separate panels. And so this is just to make sure that they are evaluated separately. The school district versus the third-party sub-program, you know, they are pretty different considering that one can fund up to 100 school buses. But then the EPA also wants to state that the official selection may also consider geographic distribution of diversity of funds, number and size of awards, environmental benefits, applicability of different business models, and other agency and programmatic priorities. And so as Serena stated in the beginning, you know, the funds there is still the possibility that they could change. And then we know that Region 2, which like we said, is New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands. Region 2 has been allotted about 37 million. And so, like we just said here, we'll be looking at geographic distribution and diversity of funds, you know, what type of schools will these buses be serving and so on. And so, like I said, the grant is due August 22nd at 11:59 p.m. And then the anticipated timing for notification of selection is about between November 2023 to January 2024. You know, so you'll submit in August and then you'll hear back by late fall or winter. Next slide, please. Okay, and now just a little bit on the next steps and then how to apply resources. So then here's a little bit, just a little overview of how to apply. You know, here's a little plug again for the Clean School Bus website. And then you can look for our tools and resources. And then it's also crucial to register your organization with grants.gov and sam.gov. This is the most important step because if you're not registered and have an active profile on grants.gov and sam.gov, you will not be eligible and you won't be able to fully apply. And then so obviously then after that, you start preparing your application process. Make sure you refer to the NOFO to make sure that you have hit everything that you need to talk about. And just remember that this is a competitive grant, so you want to make your grant as seamless and as high quality as possible. And then again, don't forget the deadline of August 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Next slide, please. And so if you need any more information, you can go to the epa.gov/clean school bus. And then to refine it even more, you can go to /clean-school-bus-program-grants. And this is just to make sure that you're looking at this grant program instead of the previous rebate program. And then you also, if you have any questions, you can send them to cleanschoolbus@epa.gov. And then EPA will respond to these questions from individual applicants. And then these questions and answers will be posted on our Clean School Bus Q&A doc, which is also on the Clean School Bus webpage. And then you can, or please refer to Appendix B in the NOFO for an application submission checklist to make sure all materials are included. You know, some of these are just what we had mentioned before, but again, the checklist is helpful just to make sure nothing is missed because points will, or they won't be allocated for things that are missing. And then we also have resources on the website for charging and fueling infrastructure, and then how to just apply for the grant in general. Next slide, please. And then just here it is again about registering and having an active account on sam.gov and grants.gov. Sam.gov is the system for award management and grants is the official system for managing all federal grant applications. So if you have already applied for a federal grant, there is a chance you do already have an account on grants.gov, but you just want to make sure it's still active. And then the registering and activating of your profile might take a few days. So just want to make sure that that is done way ahead in advance of the deadline. Next slide, please. And then just again, preparing your application package, you need forms SF-424, SF-424A, and all the other ones. You need the application narrative attachment, and then this is not to exceed 15 pages. This is also very important because if it's 16 pages, but it only goes over by one line, it will not be counted. And you don't want to be disqualified just because of a little mistake like that. So be sure to not exceed 15 pages and then make sure to include everything listed here under the work plan. And then you can also include the applicant fleet sheet and use an other attachments form. And then the third-party approval certification, only if applicable, and then that can be in the other attachments form. Next slide, please. And then just to wrap it all up, you submit your application package by August 22nd at 11:59 p.m. I know we've probably said that now maybe 10 times, but that is super important because once it turns August 23rd, this application will no longer be open and you'll either have to wait for the rebate, which is coming in the fall, or a grant program, which will just be coming sometime in the future. Next slide, please. Here are just some important dates again. This NOFO opened on April 24th. You know, like we're doing right now, we're having various webinars. This is one just specifically for your area, but then EPA hosts them every few weeks or so about different topics, whether it's how to apply, you know, if there might be any special needs for your school, things like that. And then it's also noted that August 9th is the final date to submit questions. And then this is to submit questions to have them answered. So this is just kind of trying to help people get their applications in as soon as possible so that nothing is left until the last second. And then again, this is when the application deadline is Tuesday, August 22nd at 11:59. The anticipated notification of selection is November through January of the upcoming months. And then the anticipated awards are expected to be delivered February to March of 2024. Next slide, please. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to email cleanschoolbus@epa.gov. And then also we really encourage looking at our frequently asked questions document, which is on the Clean School Bus website. You can either type in the clean-school-bus-program-grants #Q&A to find that, or you can just go to the website and navigate around yourself. And like I said, there are a ton of other resources on that webpage. So we encourage you to look at that no matter what, even if you think your application package might be really solid, you know, there could still be room for improvement. And thank you all for coming today. I think we might have a few slides after this. Is there another one after this one? Sorry. Okay, yes. So there's also, through the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation, there is a technical assistance website and just kind of program here to help you. So NREL and the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation are partnering with us at the EPA to offer Clean School Bus technical assistance. And so from our conversations we've had with other school districts, bus contractors, things like that, there is a lot of confusion with the utility side of things, the charging infrastructure. And so this joint office is here to help and provide that help needed and that information to then adopt electric school buses. And so you can email them with questions at cleanSchoolBusTA@nrel.gov, or you can go to driveelectric.gov/contact to find out more. Next slide. And then just here's more available information, flipping the switch on electric school buses. There's technical assistant videos for K-12 schools interested in implementing electric school buses. And then again, you can go to the Alternative Fuels Data Center, afdc.energy.gov/vehicles/electric_school_buses. And then you can watch the videos in order or pick which topics are of most relevance to you. Next slide, if there's one. Okay, yes, and then there's the technical assistance resources, which is the utility engagement pledge. EPA is working with national electric utility company organizations to support school districts through a utility pledge that includes facilitating communication between electric providers and school districts, providing technical support and assistance, and increasing funding and deployment. So this is just EPA's way of helping utilities engage with schools on a level that can help schools have an easy adoption of electric school buses. And then there's also an electric school bus charging station planning form, which can be really helpful because, like I said, some of the confusion does lie on the charging and infrastructure side of things. And so this form can be used by school districts to gather fleet and facility data to prepare for a meeting with their utility. And then there's also a route analysis tool, which can be good for planning your routes to make sure that the electric school buses can be used to their highest potential. Next slide. Okay, yeah, that's it for us at EPA.
Thanks, Lily, and thanks, Serena. That was great. A lot of information there packed into just a few slides. So really appreciate that. So we do have a few more minutes here, and I just kind of want to open it up to some question and answers. We've got one question right now in the Q&A pod, so I'm going to go ahead and read that. Are there any resources available to help the workforce transition to electric school buses? And I mean, I guess I'll throw that to EPA, and I don't know if there's anything on your side specifically, but I mean, I can chime in on that too. But I guess I would just check with you if there's anything kind of on your end.
Yeah. So we're partnered with, entities like NYSERDA, and they will definitely help, plan and help you implement future projects. If you're a priority school district, they'll actually cover the cost of that planning, I believe by at least 80%. If it's, if you're lower on the priority list, it's like 60% or something like that. But I will drop the NYSERDA contact information in the chat. I don't know if Lily or Jacob, you have anything to add?
I was just going to say, while you were speaking, Serena, I was looking at the Clean School Bus website. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see a link to workforce development, and they have another link for bus manufacturer job quality. and workforce development practices, and then also workforce development and training resources. So on the epa.gov/clean school bus website, just scroll down to the bottom. It's about parallel with the webinars section. And then, if you click on the resources, it will take you to general electric vehicle and electric vehicle supply equipment training, different trainings, how to maintain your new charging infrastructure, things like that. And so EPA provides these resources, but then it's also helpful to then connect with CDTC, Jacob here, but then also NYSERDA, as Serena mentioned.
Yeah, thanks, Lily. And yeah, I would build on that to say, as you look further into, going after this grant program, or if maybe, answering some of those questions on, kind of getting the staff up to speed on what that would, if those questions need to be answered first, I would sure be happy to, see if we could set something up and maybe put you in contact with other school districts who've done similar things and do a little bit more research on. I don't know off the top of my head if there's any like training programs per se, but what I do know is that a lot of the manufacturers, whether it be the bus company or the charging manufacturer that eventually gets installed, they do a lot to work with, kind of onboarding staff to understand what the differences are going to be with that electric vehicle, and then, what the requirements would be of, charging, and trying to kind of get that set up to where there's a little bit of a roadmap to, bus drivers kind of learning the differences. And, maybe now you park the bus, it needs to get plugged in, it needs to be in this location. There's a lot of things that are going to go along with it that are different than what, traditionally has been done with the diesel vehicles. So a lot of times the manufacturers themselves can provide a lot of guidance in that point, but obviously that, they're not going to come along until, later on. But I do think that there are things that you can do ahead of time to kind of gather some of that information. Next question. Would this grant program be able to apply to state universities, transportation and bus programs? So I guess I know there was a couple different like categories. I don't know if a state university would be able to fall into one of those eligible entities.
Yeah, I would definitely need more context, but just off the bat, I don't think so. I think it would apply for DERA though, the DERA program. And I'll drop the link to DERA in the chat.
Okay. And that's the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act.
Right. Yeah. You could change out heavier duty buses under that program.
Any other questions online? Again, you can feel free to type that into the question and answer, or raise hands if anyone wants to chime in and ask live. I'm not seeing any others pop up. I had a couple questions though for you guys. First one, do districts need to know like the brand or vendor of the buses that they would be purchasing, or is the budget more, hey, we've got a couple quotes for the number we need, or do they need to kind of have the specific vehicle picked out, at the point of application?
They would have to have it picked out because on the application, you're going to fill out a fleet information form and you're going to input the old vehicle information and the new vehicle information.
Okay, so the specifics need to be kind of set in stone at that point. Okay.
Yeah, I think, if you want to change the vendor, I think we're open to that. Like I said, you'll be working with a project officer. And I mean, we've gotten big changes done before on grant programs. So I think the vendor can be changed.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that.
Okay. And then next one, do you know if there's going to be any other webinars between now and the end date? I don't know if like at the national level, I know national EPA has been doing a lot of these as well, and you mentioned them. Are there anything else that we should be keeping an eye on between, excuse me, now and August?
I am pulling up our website right now and looking if there's anything upcoming. So it actually looks like there's 1 and 2 days on Wednesday, July 19th. And the name is Grant Forms, Popular Q&A, and Self-Certification. And then there will be another one the following Wednesday, July 26th. This one will be on training and maintenance considerations with the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation. That could be a really good one for you to attend if you're interested in workforce development. But then also looking at, what might be needed for training, and then maintenance considerations. And then on August 9th, which again is the last day to submit questions, there's one on OIG fraud prevention and best practices. And then the application will be due on the 22nd. And there is another webinar on August 30th, but that is just on the grant program and offering or soliciting feedback and next step ideas. So if there are 3 coming up, one this Wednesday, one the following Wednesday, and one on August 9th, which I think is also Wednesday. So, and those, you can register for those online at the Clean School Bus or the EPA/Clean School Bus, and then you just go to upcoming events for Clean School Bus webinars.
Great, thank you. And looks like Darian threw that link in the chat as well. So for everyone listening in, if you want the link to that, the schedule of events, it's right there in the chat, and that'd be a great thing to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks if you're interested in this. So with that, I'm not seeing any more questions come in. So I'm going to take that as, that we can wrap up here for the day. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in here this afternoon. I'm going to download this recording and we'll be putting it on our Clean Communities YouTube, and we'll be sending this out to everyone that registered. That way you could go back and listen in here again and catch up with anything if you think you missed it. But again, with that, thank you, Serena. Thank you, Lily. Thank everyone over at EPA that was involved in providing us with this information. And for those of you on the call, feel free to reach out to me or the folks from EPA on the line if you have any more questions. We'd happy to be help you kind of move towards getting an application in if you're interested. So thanks again, and everyone have a good afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.